James is having princess soup again, but it's not quite princessy. So he's having the black sable grapes, some cheese. I'm going to talk about Charlie's Angels, just the first part. And James is going to end up talking about the Cantos of Ezra Pound. And that's why it's princess soup, really, because it has whipping cream in it, which makes it really fatty. And it has root vegetables, so that makes it sweet. So it's sweet and fatty. So every little princess should love that. But the thing about this batch, I didn't put the kale in it, which you can hide kale in it really easily when you put all that cream. And this time I didn't use the beet broth, the reduced, from, like, you peel your beets and then you boil them in the pot with the, like, you can cube them up and you boil them in a pot with the water, and then you reduce the water down. So I didn't use that, and so that's why it doesn't look as nice. So anyway, Charlie's Angels. Now I've only gotten through the first couple discs. I'm on the third one, so I still have a ways to go even to get through season 1 of this, and there's 20 discs in this set, and they're packed full of stuff. So this box set is really quite a good thing to get from the library, because it keeps you busy for a long time. So what can I say about Charlie's Angels? I think they're all beautiful. They're too thin.
Every one of them.
Way too thin. But I don't know, like the 70s, I suppose that was
real style in the 70s.
Yeah. So cocaine sort of diet or something.
Or it's just it's not just cocaine. I mean, people who are on cocaine are skeletal, worse than that. But
anyway,
it was just the thing to do. There were some women. There's one woman in particular who is thought to be hot around the Mealers.
Twiggy?
Okay, around the Mealers. And
okay.
that's a student newspaper at the University of Lethbridge, still is. But she was just freakish.
Twiggy was really cute. Anyway, but the women in this, like James was saying, he didn't like Farrah looks, and I never thought she was really
not looks,
beautiful.
her look, which is the where she's showing her lower tooth when she smiles. It's aggressive.
I don't know if she's really aggressive, though. I think it's just maybe somebody told her, show lots of teeth when you smile.
Well, you've got a theory about why she did that, right?
And honestly, I think it's probably more to do with her serious underbite.
Overbite? Yeah, underbite.
Underbite.
Okay.
I don't think she can really help it that much.
Maybe.
I think it's probably hard for her to not show her bottom teeth that much.
Anyway, I didn't think of her as being the best looking of those three. Not even the second best. But,
and the underbite, like you said, her chin's too big and stuff. And I think, that's probably to do with the underbite too. It just forces your chin under.
That could be.
She had great hair.
It was phenomenal.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit overdone. That's one reason why I like Kate Jackson. She just had a simple hairstyle. I thought she did great, except she was way too thin.
Yeah. Anyway, what can I say about the first season so far that I've watched? There are some problems with, it's very entertaining. I enjoy the way it's written and everything like that. And I think there's probably the people making the show maybe not, but they put more thought into how low-cut Farrah Fawcett's shirts were going to be and stuff like that than they did actually paying attention to what was being said in the script and what was written, what was supposed to show up in the scene. Like there was one scene where the guy's talking about the sunset and it's like, okay, it looks to be maybe 3 in the afternoon or something.
Oh,
It doesn't look like it's not anywhere close to being sunset. And so there's things like that in the show that you're like, why didn't they pay attention to this? What were they thinking? You know, but it's entertaining. What do you want?
It is. And
It's not-
my favorite character, Bosley. I thought he was Charlie because I never watched it. I don't know if I ever watched it all the way through when I was a kid. And I was kind of like in my 20s, I guess, but very early 20s. But I like Bosley. I like Higgins. He's my favorite in Magnum P.I. Very different characters, of course. But yeah, I thought Bosley was Charlie.
And while I was watching this, I was reminded of something a very lovely Muslim woman said to me once. She was talking about where she's from, and I guess I shouldn't say where she's from either. But anyway, where she's from, she said like she wasn't married, and she had no intention on becoming married. She didn't want to become married, and she said she feels very lucky because well, I guess I shouldn't say that much about her either. For some reason, she wasn't able to marry when she was young. She wasn't seen as being attractive, and so she didn't have quarters. And she feels very thankful that she didn't, because she's single and likes being single. And she's ended up here. And she said, you know, like she'd worked here and stuff, and she said she was talking about how when women started working where she was from, then the men just sat around, and so the women ended up working more. And she said she doesn't really believe in women working because it just makes men sit around or whatever. And when I was watching this, I was thinking of what she was saying, right? Because Charlie, here he is, like, what does he do? It's his private investigation firm, but what is he doing? Collecting paychecks off of the work of these women. And Bosley, to maybe a lesser extent.
I don't
right?
know what
He doesn't do a whole lot either.
sits around.
But I mean, I think the young ladies could figure out how to turn the speakerphone on when Charlie calls. So I think that's really all that Bosley does. He picks up the phone, he turns it on speakerphone. So anyway, so he's really, but whatever. I don't know. I don't think that this show was made for feminists or whatever. It does not strike me as that. Anyway,
I don't know.
entertaining.
I mean, there's too much eye candy, I suppose, for feminists to be thrilled about. The women are actually out, and the big problem, of course, is the anorexia / bulimia. But at least they're out there actually doing something.
Oh, and I
men
was
kinda
also
sit
thinking
around,
of
like you said.
who was it? Oh, who was that leader who had the?
Gaddafi.
Was it? Yeah.
Gaddafi.
I was also thinking of him while watching.
He only
this,
trusted women bodyguards.
Yeah. So I was thinking of, and that made me think of the song "Bikini Girls with Machine Guns." So that's a great song. But anyway,
I'm just going to say with Gaddafi, I suspect those women are pretty useless as guarding.
Well, if you have a gun, I mean, what do you need? You don't need big muscles to fire a gun, do you?
The main threat I would consider would be to their own bodies from Gaddafi. But it'd be a pleasure to use a gun on that guy, I'm afraid.
So anyway, I guess you could talk about Ezra Pound. I don't know. I read a little bit. I haven't gotten back to it. I've been busy.
Not highly motivated.
Not really, no. I'm not motivated at all. I think, well, it's something I should read, so I'm going to read it, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's come all the way from the Edmonton Public Library, because James wanted me to borrow it, so I'll read it too. I know I should.
I wanted her to borrow it for me, not for herself. I
No.
was kind of surprised when she said
No, well, I can't. Like James knows all of the languages, which he uses
I've
a lot
studied
of different
all of the languages.
And that. So
I don't know them that well. They're
no,
kind
but
of
you
like
can read it, and you understand what he's saying. With me, when I'm reading it and I get to a part that's in another language, I just have to skip over it. Like I don't have to. I suppose I could go to the library and put it in whatever, but I don't get the impression that it's really important to the story. I think he's just put it in there to.
He's showing off.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's just pulling out his package and saying, "Yeah, look at this," you know. And I don't need that. You know, if there's something worth seeing, I will notice without that. But I don't see that. I don't see anything really worth seeing there. It's really trashy writing, and
it's very bad.
Yeah. James was telling me about Ezra Pound's blue pencil, and I was thinking, you know, I bet you that's how he got the big reputation, is a lot of people think highly of critics. And so, you know, him just by criticizing other people's work, maybe people thought, oh, well, he must know something, or whatever.
I think there's a lot of factors involved. I get the impression he's taller than average.
Oh.
You see what tall guys tend to be like. They tend to think that they are God's gift to everyone in the world, not just women. And people, for some crazy reason or another, tend to defer to them. Again, I don't understand it. Some of the goofiest doofuses I've ever run across were tall guys who wanted to be leaders.
So this is probably the last you're going to get Princess, because that's the last of the cream. I only buy this stuff for James when it's on clearance for really cheap. It has to be clearance price and then 50% off the clearance price, and then I'm like, okay, and I bring it home because it costs almost nothing, and it is delicious.
Yeah, you know, we just make sure we eat it fast so it doesn't spoil on the shelf.
Well, it won't. And I mean, I don't feed it to you that often, so I much prefer feeding him things like the grapes.
Right.
And they
that's made with Canadian milk. Apparently, Donald Trump thinks Canadian milk is a threat to American economic security.
Oh, okay, whatever.
What a doofus.
Okay, have fun with the Cantos.
I'm going to finish the soup up here, folks. Bear with me. Or don't. It's up to you. Not quite finished. Anyway, more waiting inside. In the pot. Gonna have to treat the dogs a little bit. Some fixes. Now, let's just start at the beginning. Let's begin with the beginning, the Canto one. So Canto basically is a part of a poem. It's Italian, I'm pretty sure. A part of a poem. The root word would be the same root that English uses for chant. You don't believe me? Check it up. I've never checked it up, but many Latin or Romance language words that start with C, English for some reason or another, turn to CH. And it's not just Romance languages, now that I think about it, Germanic languages. We get Scandinavian Kirk. I think it's Scandinavian, maybe Dutch as well. Dunkirk is in France, but I'm sure it's a Flemish name. Though Flemish is a form of Dutch. Spoken in Belgium mainly, but I presume it's partly spoken in, or at one point in time was spoken in France. So it should have been Église in French. Dun Église or something like that. Dunkirk. But Kirk got changed to church. See how, or hear how the two K's in Kirk. I changed to two CH's. Kirk Church. And that's just one example. I suspect kinder is related somewhere or another to English, which is, I should explain, is German for children, is actually related, not just in terms of meaning only, to English children. That's not the greatest example, because how did the N change to an L or vice versa? So it happens within languages or from one language to another. L's get changed to R's, R's to L's, so on and so forth. The R to L change is more frequent from what I've been able to tell. But I'll give you an example from the, I always want to call it Near East, it's a better designation, but we tend to call it the Middle East here in the English tradition. In German it's Nahost, Near East. But place called Nukhase, and the Assyrians, so that was the name, I believe, for an area in present-day Syria, northern Syria, back in ancient times. And they look at the Assyrian stuff and they see a name, Luash or Lakuti even, T for S, SH. And they go, well, it's the same name. Yes, it is. So I know one person who's had quite an exposure to languages, ancient languages and stuff like that. He was very dismissive, actually, when I said, tuna to be found in Egyptian records and also the El Amarna cuneiform records found in the middle of Egypt, but written in basically the Babylonian script. We call it Akkadian script, so the ancient Babylonians, the Assyrians used it. Tunip, which is this place in somewhere, they figured wrong, of course, but that it was on the coast, Mediterranean coast, maybe in Lebanon, northern Lebanon, southern Syria. No. They think it's the capital of a guy called Azur, or Azir in El Amarna tablets, and he just mentions he's there. The guy was a big campaigner. He might have made it his capital. I mean, oftentimes capitals aren't the center of a entity. For example, I believe the Romans for a while had a capital in on the edge of Germany. Why? Because the emperor at that point in time was campaigning there. Or not necessarily an offensive campaign. Generally, once the Roman Empire was almost like set in stone or something like that, it were the barbarians who were invading and not being invaded by the Romans. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, Lahuti, Luash. And, okay, so here we go. Canon 1, get ready. So they're not even chance, okay? This is not, strictly speaking, poetry. All these 800, I think it's a little less than 800 pages. It read like more, I'm telling you. Oh, it's more than 800 pages, but way more. It read like more. Got through it in less than a week. I'm going to be trying, more than a month, to actually set aside one day, and I'm going to try to get through all of these in one day, 24-hour period, just to show it can be done. So I actually had a friend I mentioned before. He's a good guy, smart guy, sharp guy. He's told me once, maybe a whole group of us, I'm reading the Cantos from back to front. And so the inevitable question was, why would you want to do that? And he said, well, I want to be the only person ever to have actually read the end of the Cantos. So I did that. I actually read them from the back to the front. Not page by page, but I'd go, like Canto 116. Read that, and then go to Canto 115. I read it back to front. I'm going to go front to back, I think, when I try to read it in one day. And I think one of these days, the next little over a month, I'm going to go page by page, because Pauline was saying, when I mentioned that to Pauline, the possibility to Pauline, she said, won't you lose the continuity? I said, there ain't much continuity we had anymore. Okay. Canto 1, and then went down to the ship. Who went down to the ship? And then went down to the ship. Doesn't say who. That's how it starts, with an and. Okay. Now, it follows, from what follows, that it's probably we. But, you know, I'm going to blue pen, not in this book, this is an Edmonton Library book, or Lethbridge Library book. I wouldn't blue pen it either. But it should be, we went down to the ship. Ezra Pound would snatch, you know, people be reciting poetry, he'd snatch a paper from them, start marking it up with blue pen. I find, he'd say, that I can write to what you wrote in 46 words and 27 words, or something like that. Yeah. And then went down to the ship. It should be, we went down to the ship. Forget the then and forget the and. He's just being, hey, I can start a poem, a whole big poem, 800 pages long with and. What's the point? And then, what's the point of the then? And then went down to the ship. Set keel to breakers, forth on the godly sea. Okay. Set keel to breakers on the godly sea. What's the point of the fourth? It's kind of almost a little bit. Went down and then went forth on the godly sea. Set keel to breakers. It should actually be set keel to breakers. Set the keel to the breakers. This guy drops out. He thinks he's being really, really economical with stuff. And when you see how wasteful he is with words and syllables, you wonder why. Yeah, this is English. Generally, when we use things like nouns, we put an article, the indefinite one, or an, or the definite one, the, before them. Otherwise, it seems a little bit telegraphic and or stilted, or almost pigeon language-like. It's what people do when they don't know a language, like English. They don't know when to put in the articles before a noun. Japanese people have a problem with that. Forth on the godly sea, and we set up mast and sail on that sword ship. So, okay, we might say that, set mast and sail, because there can be several masts and several sails. We set up mast and sail on that sword ship. You know, like this guy's supposed to be a modern poet. You know, there are a lot of postmodernists consider him a modernist. And they going around saying, we're postmodern. Yeah, you're pre-modern, you stupid touches. Pre-modern, okay? You're not postmodern, you're pre-modern. And that's not good. Not that I'm a big fan of many of the modernists. They like singling out Ezra Pound, who was a right-winger. T.S. Eliot, right-winger of slightly different sort. William Butler Yeats, right-winger, again, slightly different sort from the first two. Wyndham Lewis, who might have been born almost like accidentally in the territorial waters of Canada. Is that how the story goes? Up in Nova Scotia. Anyway, some people claim him for Canada. Don't dirty our hands with that dirty swine. Anyway, another right-winger, again, slightly different from the previous three that I've mentioned. They'll mention James Joyce, and I'm going, yeah, James Joyce wasn't a right-winger. And really, you know, you look at his pivotal novel, Ulysses, and it actually is postmodern, I'd call it. half the way through. The first part is modern. I think they mentioned Proust, or Prue, however you want to mispronounce his name, Marcel, so on and so forth. And I went down the ship, set keel to breakers, set the keel to breakers. You could say breakers there, I guess, to the breakers on the Godly Sea. And we set up mast and sail on that swart ship. Okay, modern. You don't say swart. You don't even say swarthy unless you're talking about someone's complexion. Nowadays, of course, you'd have to be careful because that sounds like something you'd say about a person. You got to really tread softly when you do that, or you might get witch hunted. Yeah. Anyway, boar sheep upon her, aboard her. Now, boar sheep aboard her. Well, I guess, like he's kind of playing on boar and aboard. Boar sheep aboard her. On aboard her. Aboard her, I guess. And our bodies also. So, hey, a little bit of alliteration here, man. Check that out. That doesn't make it poetry. There's a form of prose called poetic prose where you can use things like alliteration and even rhyme and assonance, of course, consonants, and it doesn't make it poetry. This isn't poetry, okay? Heavy with weeping. Okay, our body's also heavy with weeping, so heavy bodies, I guess. And winds from sternward bore us out onward with bellying. Why wouldn't you just say bore us out with bellying canvas? What's the point of the onward? Bore us out onward with bellying canvas, so bellying heavy. Okay. Circe is this craft.
Hey, you're okay. You're okay.
God. Nothing like getting barked at in your own yard. Shameful. A lot of people walk dogs in the alley. Why do they do that? It's because they don't pick up the poop of the dog in the alley. That's why. Oops. The dog even have a leash on. This brute. Anyway, Circe's this craft, the trim coiffed goddess. What you say is Circe's is this craft. No, you say this craft is Circe's. Inversion. You don't do that in English language. You could say you don't do that in English poetry, but no, you don't do it in English language because it's not English. It's not English. A linguist would mark that with a star in front of an asterisk. And it doesn't mean, wow, exceptional. It means not English, or whatever language you're dealing with. Put it in front of something purporting to be a French phrase, it's indicating that what follows is not French. So with my blue pencil, one of these days I'll write some of this stuff out and I'll blue pencil it. I'm not going to blue pencil any library's book. Blue pencil. This craft is Circe's. Circe's this craft. What?